Hey friends, it's Corey from Hey Let's Make Stuff. Today I'm pulling one out of the archives that I haven't actually shared here before. We are going to be talking about sturdy work tables. I have a whole bunch to share with you, from sort of spendy options and budget options, so if you are looking for a better work table for your craft space, I think you're going to like this video. When setting up your craft space, one of the most important things you can invest in is a solid work table. This is particularly important if you are doing some sort of heavy-duty craft. So for me, I do a lot of machine crafting, which means that I'm working with my Cricut or a laser machine or a heat press or a sublimation printer. I have a lot of machines, so I have needed a lot of sturdy work tables, and I have a lot of sturdy work tables, and I have experience using a lot of sturdy work tables. So in today's class, we are going to be going through my favorites plus a few others so that you can find the perfect table for your craft space. Now, I want to start out by saying that I know that not everybody, most people, do not have a craft space like mine. When we moved to Washington, we specifically looked for a craft space that I would be able to work in. And I needed a lot of space because I do a lot of machine reviews beyond just everyday crafting. So I know that I have a lot more space than the average crafter. So when you're looking around at all of the different tables and options I have, I don't want you to feel bad that you don't have a space like this. I know that I am very lucky. I'm very privileged to have this space, and it works really well for me for what I do. Most crafters don't actually need this much space because they're not doing 17 different types of crafts like I am to put them on YouTube. So just keep in mind that this space is meant to be really beautiful because I put it on the internet all the time, and I have a lot of machines, so I have a lot of tables. Just choose what's best for you. So before we get into the actual work tables, let's talk about why a sturdy work table matters. The first is that you need a sturdy work table for basically any precision work that you're doing. If you have a wobbly table, you're going to end up making mistakes. So whether you are adding embellishments to something, maybe you're weeding a really intricate design or cutting fabric, you want a sturdy work table so that you don't actually mess up what you're doing. If you have a flimsy work table, if you're working from a card table, that can really mess up the quality of your crafting, and you just don't want to do that. You want something that is sturdy underneath your crafts. Second, you want the table to be durable because you want to be able to use it long term. You want to make sure that this is not a table that's only going to last you a season or a year. You want to be able to use this year after year. And craft tables take a beating, right? You may drop hot glue on it. You may have pressure from heavy machines. You may spill stuff on it. You want a table that's going to stand up and be durable in the long term and not just be so flimsy that you're going to have to replace it and spend even more money in the long term because you've had to buy so many tables. Third, you want to pick a table that is good for your sort of comfort and ergonomics. So in my craft room, most of my tables are actually standing tables because I find for me that sitting for long periods of time is very difficult, and I already sit for a lot of time at my computer. So whenever I'm crafting, I'm basically standing. It's just way more comfortable for me. So you want to think about the ergonomics of the table that you're buying. Maybe buy a table that can be adjustable, so you can either, put it at standing height or put it down at a sitting height, depending on what you want to do. I have a couple different options that we'll talk about, but make sure that your comfort and your ergonomics are something that you're paying attention to, because the last thing you want to do is be uncomfortable while you're crafting. And then fourth, it is all about space optimization. We only have so much space to craft in. So maybe you need a work table that has storage underneath, or maybe you need a work table that will fit really large bins underneath. You want to think about the storage options within your work table because you want to optimize that space for the amount of things you need to store. All right, let's get into some different work table ideas. I actually have a lot of work tables. So a lot of these I have experience using. So I'm going to tell you the pros and cons and why I like them and why I've kept them in my craft room long term. So to start, we're going to start with this Gladiator workbench. I actually have 3 of these, and I have put them in a giant U in my craft room. And this is working very well for me right now because it gives me an enormous amount of space to work. These are my work tables. So these are the tables that I'm using to actually craft on. I used to just have one of them, and it worked really well, and I used it for years. But recently I decided I just need more space because I am doing things both for my YouTube channel and my blog, as well as for my Etsy shop. I needed more workspace, so I created this U. I love these Gladiator workbenches. They are not inexpensive, but they are so incredibly sturdy. They don't shake around, they don't wobble when I'm working. They are adjustable in height. Again, I have them at standing height. They work really well for me at that. And I think overall they are also just very attractive tables. So they work really well in my kind of aesthetic space that I have here. The biggest cons with the Gladiator workbenches is going to be the price. They are not cheap, and that they don't have any built-in storage underneath. For me, that totally works because I have a ton of other storage within my craft space, and underneath these, I'm storing bins, boxes, a lot of blanks for when I am doing stuff for my Etsy shop. I have a rolling cart of drawers under there as well. So I've put my own storage underneath, but if you're looking for built-in storage, you're gonna have to choose a different solution. If the Gladiator workbenches are too expensive, I totally understand. They were kind of the only option when I was first looking at workbenches that were really sturdy and kind of what I was looking for in the color white, to be perfectly honest. But I do have two other sort of budget-friendly workbenches. One holds two of my lasers, and the other one is actually the one that I'm sitting here using right now. It's the one that I film at. These are not quite as sturdy as the Gladiator workbenches, but they are really, really good, especially with the one that I have here. So I'm definitely going to link this one. The one that I have my lasers sitting on is good, but it's not great. It's just a little wobbly compared to the other ones. However, it is working really well for those lasers. I wouldn't necessarily use it as a work table that I am crafting on all the time, just because I think it wobbles a little bit. I'm happy having my lasers on there. It's worked really well. My lasers don't move around and shake a lot. So if you're looking for a real budget option, I'll share that one I got from Amazon. You can use it, but I do think getting something that's a little bit sturdier for your actual work table might be a little bit better for most crafters. My third option, definitely not cheap, but probably my favorite storage solution I have in my entire craft space are these Husky workbenches. These are amazing. My husband is so jealous that I have these amazing workbenches up here in my craft studio. But if you are a laser crafter or you're doing crafts that have large materials, I cannot recommend these more highly. So these are from Husky. They have these lovely ball bearing drawers, huge drawers. They fit so many materials, supplies, tools, everything I need to run my two big lasers I have in these Husky drawers. I have absolutely no regrets spending money on these particular workbenches. They may not be for everybody, but honestly, for laser crafters, I think this is basically the best option out there if you have the money. I don't have them personally, but there is a less expensive version of these from Harbor Freight, and I can't remember the name of the brand, but they do have a similar workbench. I have not tried it out myself. Angie actually sent me some photos the other day. I don't think they come in white, which is one of the things I really wanted. So again, I'm spending money on aesthetics, which you may not need to do. But I think they would work really well for laser crafting as well. So definitely check out the ones at Harbor Freight. I know they come in black. They may come in other colors like red or blue. So that's something to check out if the Husky is out of your budget. Now, if you're looking for a more budget-friendly option, head to IKEA. IKEA has so many great options, and a lot of them you can kind of mix and match. So my favorite that I use here are two Alex drawer units with basically a countertop on top of it. I actually have two of these in my craft space. Right now, one of them is kind of just got a whole bunch of random stuff on it. I'm hoping to put a new printer over there, so it's just kind of a bit of a mess right now because, again, like I've said in so many videos, this is always a journey and not a destination. And then on the other side, it's holding some heat presses with a whole bunch of vinyl and other supplies underneath. This is a really great option. It's easy to put together. It's easy to move around. If you need to reorganize your space, Alex drawers are always good drawers for crafters. My biggest beef is that they are just ever so slightly too small for most crafting materials. The inside of the drawers are 11.5 by 19.5. Standard laser materials are 12 by 20. Standard Cricut materials are 12 by 12. They don't fit in these drawers. And it's one of my little pet peeves about IKEA stuff where I'm like, you were so close to getting it right for crafters. Something to be aware of. It's not going to be able to hold everything you want it to hold. I do have this wider set of rolling Alex drawers underneath my table. That does hold slightly larger supplies. It still is not quite the width I would prefer, but it does hold a lot. This is a great option if you have an IKEA near you. Another option is a folding table. So I would avoid anything like a card table. It's going to be too flimsy for most crafting. But I do have a couple options for you. So I have this rolling cart here, and it has flip up, sides to create a larger table. It is tall, so this would be a standing table. You can't really put a chair underneath it. You might be able to put a stool underneath one side of it. I have another laser on top of it. I have a lot of lasers. I have another laser on top of it and two other lasers stored underneath it. But this would make a really nice working table. This one is from Michaels. It was kind of a pain to assemble. It took me and my dad way longer than I think it should have. I assemble a lot of things, and it took me a long time to assemble it. So just keep that in mind, but it is really sturdy, and overall I'm really happy with this particular piece of furniture in my craft room because it allows me to, again, store all of these lasers as well as a lot of supplies underneath. Another very popular folding table is the gatefold table from IKEA. Again, we're going back to IKEA. This table I have seen so many crafters use. It does have a little bit of storage in the middle, so if you have some, supplies that you use all the time, you can put them in the middle. And then both of the sides of the table fold down and can be stored in a much smaller space. So if you are working in a bedroom or just a much smaller space than I am, this is a great option to give you a ton of workspace that can be sort of stored and put out of the way. Another table that I have is my Create Room Dreambox table, and this is a great work table. Again, the Dreambox, this is a big purchase, right? So I have the Dreambox Center. It doesn't have the big doors on it because I actually don't have enough space in my craft room for those doors, but the Dreambox Center is sort of just the center of it. It includes all of the drawers and storage at the top and the bottom, and then it has this nice folding table that comes out. This table is really sturdy, and I actually really like working here. This is my shipping station for my Etsy shop. I sit here all the time and work. I have it paired with my dream cart, and it is absolutely a really, really great work area. So if you're looking for a work table, you don't have a lot of space, Dreambox might be an option for you. And then also I have an automatic standing desk. Personally, I use this for my computer space, but it could also work really, really well as a crafting space. And the thing I love about this is that it's adjustable. It can go from sitting to standing really easily. It's motor powered. I don't have to undo any of the, little pins at the bottom of the tables like I would have to do on the Gladiator or the budget work tables that I talked about. So maybe a standing desk is a really good option for you. You can also DIY yourself a table. You can build a table that is perfectly sized for your space. And this is can be very ideal for people who have maybe an oddly shaped space or they want to maximize their space. This is a table that Angie has. She took some video of it for me. She bought these sort of legs and then built the wood part herself. So she could size the wood part to be exactly the size she needed for her workspace using these DIY legs. You will need some sort of woodworking supplies, I would think, to be able to build this. But if you have a handy person in your house or you're handy yourself, this is a great option to get a custom table that is sturdy and will work in basically any space. And then finally, I wanted to mention that you may be working from your dining table or your kitchen island, and these are perfectly reasonable places to craft. I started out at my dining table. I have crafted a lot at my kitchen island in my last house. I understand that we don't all have a giant craft space and we are working with what we have. So if you are working at your dining table, just make sure that you're working in a chair that's sort of ergonomic, maybe not your dining chair. My dining chairs are fully wood. There's no padding on them. And if I sit in them for too long, my butt starts to hurt. So, just make sure that you're comfortable, that the height is good, and that your table is really solid, and then that you're cleaning everything up so that you don't actually mix any of your crafting stuff with your food. All right, so I told you I have a lot of tables, and I hope that this gave you an overview of some of the options. When you are thinking about getting a craft table, I would recommend really thinking about your needs. So do you need to cut large pieces of fabric or other materials? Do you really need a lot of built-in storage? Maybe an adjustable height table will help with your health, being able to stand or sit whenever your body wants you to. These are all things you need to take into account when thinking about buying a table. Of course, you're also going to need to take into account your budget. Budget is just one of those things that we all have to deal with, and maybe some of these are just not in your price budget, which I totally understand. Maybe it's something you need to save up for. Maybe you saw something here and you're like, that is exactly what I need, but I can't afford it. So maybe you're just setting aside a little bit of money so that at some point you can bring it into your house. Taking all of these factors into account will help you invest in the right table for your space, your needs, and your budget. No matter what type of crafting you do, getting the right work table can be a game changer. It can increase your comfort, it can increase your productivity, all of these things just by getting the right table. So if you're currently working at some sort of a flimsy table and you're looking for a better option, I hope you found one in this video. I hope you found this video on sturdy work tables helpful in your buying decisions. If you made a choice, I would love to hear what it is down in the comments. For more organization in your craft room, follow my channel. I'll see you next time.